It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 191 for the end of November 2021. We're live streaming this live, and we do every fortnight now on Twitch, or if you're not the live kind of person, we do have an on-demand video and podcast whenever you want. Head to Stevivor.com for download links. I am Steve Wright, and joining me is my bestest buddy, Ben Salter. Ben, how are you? What's going on, dude?
Well, it's good to be here. There's a lot of games out. There was a surprise drop, so we've had a lot to play. Like, when was the last time that happened, that we had a surprise and you can play it right now situation?
Some E3 a long time ago, and I can't even remember what. Like,
Remember, that used to be our prediction, like every E3, back when we used to do this podcast, like years ago, like 2013, 14, we used to always predict someone's going to do that, and it's our today moment. No one really ever did, or it was some like tiny little thing. And it officially didn't happen, but it did. It's not an official launch, but we're playing it.
Yes, and it's I guess it's like the thing that I can think of that happened before, ahead of Halo Infinite multiplayer, is maybe like the Resident Evil 7 and I guess Village demos. Was the Village demo? I can't remember, but yeah, anyway, it's that you can play it now. We need more of those moments. And obviously the Halo Infinite moment was kind of ruined by leakers and stuff, but also it was like 5 a.m. for Australians. So did you really want to get up at 5 a.m. to spend 2 hours trying to download it and then eventually play at like 9 anyway? So if you got sleep, I applaud you. I respect you for your choice and your decision. We've got so much, Ben. We probably should just get straight into it. And it's fitting that we were talking about Halo Infinite because that's what we're going to keep talking about. Our review in progress is up on the website. We've started looking at multiplayer. We've also started looking at some of the campaign because I've had an opportunity to preview the first 4 or 5 hours, I'd say, of Infinite's campaign, rather than doing, because it's this weird, like, half a game is out, half it isn't. There's no preview, it's just a review and it's going to roll. And that will obviously finish and conclude ahead of the 8th, or probably 9th December in Australia, release of Infinite. Yeah. So I've been babbling, Ben. How about we start with multiplayer anyway? How much have you been playing since we had it dropped on us? Probably like almost a fortnight ago.
Yeah, well, we played together for a while, and I've dropped in a few times since then. So I've only played one ranked match for the achievement, and then I'm out of ranked. I'm just a big team battle and quick play kind of guy. So yeah, relative amount, because I had a few other things to play. We'll get to those next. So I was kind of not planning to play Halo, and then it suddenly came out. It ruined my review schedule, but I dropped all those, played Halo, and it's really good. Pretty much, I think the discourse out there on Twitter especially is the game's great, the progression system sucks, and the battle pass sucks. That's pretty much it. Like, that's the state that it's in. There's not a lot more to say really, except that I think it's going to get a lot of positive press, and it should do, because it's by far my favorite multiplayer game of the year by a long way. Yeah. And I think I'm going to play it for a long time to come. But there's also that kind of nagging feeling of Microsoft had an opportunity that no one else did, which was to release like the best free-to-play multiplayer game, because like everyone else, right, they need to make money from not dodgy, but annoying microtransactions and all these customizable items and all that stuff. And Microsoft probably could have just taken the big brands like Boost from a quality Halo game doing minimal monetization, and then use that kind of good press to sell Game Pass subscriptions, to even sell the game on PC for the campaign. Something which most free-to-play games don't have. They don't have that paid multiplayer, and they also aren't the flagship title for a console, and not even a console anymore, a whole ecosystem now that Xbox is not just a box, it's also a streaming service, and it's on PC. So I feel like if anyone was ever going to take that hit and just release like this massive free-to-play multiplayer game that's amazing, and it's not trying to nickel and dime you all the time, this was the one. And they've still kind of done that. Like, they've released a game which is going to sell the campaign really well, but it feels like opportunity missed, because someone at Microsoft at some point obviously said, we need more money from this. And it's just, yeah, I don't think anyone will have that opportunity again, and I don't think Xbox took it as well as they could have.
Yeah, the multiplayer is super fun. I've had the most fun playing it with you that I've probably had playing a lot of things. And like you look at the state of Battlefield, it's a nightmare. Call of Duty is fun, but hectic. Like it's just like the TDK time to kill is so quick. It's just like you don't have time to really like strategize. You kind of just
Yeah.
either find a really good camping spot or just run at things and die. Whereas Halo, the time to kill is a little bit longer. The weapon spawns play a big deal. Like just grouping up as a team is important. Like the reversal medal is my favorite because like in Call of Duty especially, you're the first person to shoot at someone. You're generally going to be the one who comes out on top. And in Halo, it's like, are you getting your headshots? Are you trying to take cover? What weapon do you have? Are you hot swapping between weapons carefully? It's just super enjoyable and tight in terms of gameplay. The battle pass system, the progression system is garbage. And it, like it's me, Ben. So there's achievements tied to the battle pass and the progression system. Of note, there's one to complete a battle pass, which is like 100 levels. You can spend, like I think it's like $300 or $400 or more to, like buy your way to 100 levels in the battle pass, or you can grind it. And the problem with the grind is it's not based on your performance in a match. It's not based on the amount of medals you get or the score you get or how well you hold objectives. It's tied to weekly and daily challenges, which require you to use a certain weapon or play a certain game mode or use a vehicle, which is frustrating if you don't like the vehicle or the weapon or whatever you're supposed to be using, or if you're just not in the game mode that you're supposed to be achieving things in. And then it piles on top of one and the other. The other thing is if you're playing an objective-based mode and there is a Banshee on the field, some players need that Banshee challenge to continue on in the progression system, so they will like just completely ignore everything that's happening in the game, and that's their single solitary focus, which is just, it's game ruining for some things. And because there's an achievement to get the ultimate weekly challenge, which is like basically ticking through every single challenge you're given, I did that because it's me. Once I'd done that, I had no other means until the weekly reset to continue with my progression. And the huge thing, the huge marketing spin that Microsoft was trying to put on the progression system before it came out was, like you can buy a battle pass now and you can use that. You can play through the battle pass for the next 3 years. If you take a long time to finish it, don't worry, it's not going away. You can do it, which is great. But the opposite is, if I'm playing a whole bunch and I'm playing at my own pace, if my pace is faster than what you want it to be, you shouldn't limit me either, which I have a really big problem with. Other than that, it's great. It's such a good game and I really love it. So like, I'm not trying to be too hung up on the battle pass stuff, but I would have rather have paid some money. I would have if this was a Sony current gen game cost of 125 or 130 or something, I would have rather have paid that and had a more user-friendly progression system that I wouldn't be annoyed with, which would then mean that I just completely love this game in every way, shape, and form, rather than being like, it's really good except for like, oh, this like stupid black sheep of a thing. Sorry, Go ahead.
They've basically, so with this weird drop, they haven't said it's launched. They've called it a beta, even though it's come out like 3 weeks before, and there's no time for them to do anything. But as a result of that, they've addressed it, and they haven't said it, but they've kind of said, oh, it's not officially launched. We hear you. We're going to change some of this battle pass and some of the progression. But a lot of it was meant to go for like another 6 months or something. So they're not changing it in the next 2 weeks. It's going to stay as it is. Good news, they are changing it to some degree. And they can probably say, we use that as a final test period. I think they've called it a beta so that they don't piss off the retailers. So that, EB Game's still going to have Halo on its shelf. They're selling the campaign, but they're going to get pretty annoyed if they said, but the bit that people are going to keep playing, even though it's free to play, is already out. They'll play that, and then they'll think, I don't really need the campaign. So I don't think that's the case, but I can see retailers being annoyed by that. I think that's why they've said it's not been released, because the full package isn't out. It's still a test, and we're still tweaking it, even though they can't really do anything at this point.
Yeah, it's a full release in every sense but the name, which is the technicality of the beta. So like it's silly. Its live, achievements are live. The game proper, completely comes out in a little over 2 weeks, I think. So we'll keep updating the review in progress, and we'll obviously add our full thoughts on campaign ahead of release. I don't know when the embargo properly lifts, so I don't even know if I can tell you that. So, I'm gonna just quickly keep going. If you will, if I can indulge myself, Ben, I get to talk about campaign for a bit, and I promise I will be spoiler free. So I had the chance to play through. Go ahead. What? Are you just
going to take off my headphones in case you were too spoilery?
Well, no. I'll try not to be. It's the Infinite campaign thus far is this amazing mixture of old school Halo and modern gaming sensibilities. So if you haven't been kind of following the Halo experience, like Halo 1 to 3, ODST, Reach, they were Bungie, who have moved on to Destiny. But obviously they didn't get to take the Halo IP with them, so Microsoft started a new studio called 343 Industries. Like the Frank O'Connors, and some of the Bungie people remained on board to continue on. A lot left, it was kind of a mixture. I liked 343's first proper Halo. They also did the Master Chief Collection, which is basically Bungie and had some problems getting off the ground, but it was pretty good. It's very good now. Halo 4 I really liked. It introduced the Prometheans in like a new story where the chief is the Reclaimer, and dealt with what happens to Cortana, an AI who's not meant to exist forever. She's this intelligent, continually learning machine, and there's a limit before it starts going crazy, and that's her rampancy. I'm trying not to even spoil Halo 4 and 5. So it was good. I really liked it. There was new weapons, new bosses, new enemies, but it felt very Halo, to the point where then you got to Halo 5 Guardians, which was awful in every way, shape, and form. It basically put the chief to the side. It introduced Spartan Locke, who was in this weird like web series. I don't think it was a real TV show, but like no one cares. You didn't die. You got downed, and you had to like revive your fellow Spartans rather than doing anything kind of cool. It didn't feel like a Halo game. It felt too far removed. It felt more like a Call of Duty or something. So anyway, that's the backstory. I haven't even talked about Infinite yet. Infinite is 343 kind of winding it back in terms of trying to evolve Halo with new things and new enemies and new ways to play. It's going back to like the core gameplay, but the modernization is things like it's an open world it is an open world. You land, you go through 2 missions that are pretty self-contained kind of corridory, and then it opens up to this full map where you can't get to every bit of the Zeta Halo, but you can get to bits and pieces, and then you slowly kind of unlock other ways of traversal, or other methods to get to different parts, and you can either go and liberate outposts that the Banished, otherwise known as what are they called, the Covenant by any other name. You can do that. You can go and rescue UNSC Marines who've been abandoned or stranded on Zeta Halo. You can find Spartan points, which is a progression system for the Chief. So he gets a grapple shot, which we've all kind of seen and we all have used in multiplayer. Threat sensors. He has these kind of tools that he can use and upgrade so they're better. You can also go and find Mjolnir armory lockers, which unlock cosmetics in multiplayer. So you can go and explore, and the Halo is so crazily diverse. Like it's super high, it's very vertical. You can just grapple shot into your heart's content, or you can just go, okay, I want to play the missions. Point me at the mission, I'm gonna do it. And you kind of like, some of them are like an open world, but it kind of like loads you basically into a mission. There's like a little bit of a transition, and like you're still in an open world. Or sometimes you're just like you're in this installation now, you're in this base, so like there's a roof over your head and you're kind of just going from point A to point B killing things. The culmination is just like a really, really fun experience that very much feels like Halo, and also just feels like combat evolved. Which is a lame way to say it, but like it's super good. So I hope I didn't spoil anything.
Excited. You haven't spoiled anything. It does sound to me like it's been designed for co-op, which is again the main thing which we already know is missing. So it's not going to be a big surprise. And to be honest, I've made peace with that to the extent that I would normally want it there at launch in a Halo game, but I think I will play it single player. Enough time will pass that when the co-op does come, I'm ready to play it again. So in that sense, probably a blessing in disguise.
Well, there are achievements for legendary and with all skulls and stuff, Ben. So I vote. It's hard enough on normal in some respects, and sometimes it's just kind of a little bit too easy with like all, especially as you get better with the grapple shot and stuff. It starts to get a little too easy. So if you're watching the live stream right now, this is gameplay from Heroic, which stepped it up. And this was like mission 2. It was pretty early on, but it was like you could tell the difference in challenge. So I'm sure legendary is going to be hard, which is good. That's why you play legendary Halo, because it is challenging. Unless you're like, the guy who has the mate just stays like really far back on the map and you just keep using him to respawn, which is a viable strategy. But talking to 343, they were saying, like it's meant to be difficult. Legendary is meant to be challenging. Yes, you're all saying that you're using the grapple shot exclusively, but with legendary, that shouldn't be an option. You're going to need to use the threat sensor to figure out what's happening. You're going to need to use the shield boost to kind of like, boost you when you need it. You can't just rely on the grapple shot, which to be honest is exactly what I'm doing playing in normal and heroic, because it's just so much fun getting from place to place, hitting an enemy and like just zipping to him and punching him in the face. Like it's just super fun, to the point where I forget that I'm lacking that always on skill in multiplayer and finding myself kind of like muscle memory hitting RB and not doing what I want because I'm not superpowered chief. So like that's what I want to finish on, I guess. Sorry, I'm talking for so long. The campaign does a really, really good job of making you feel like you are like this super powered Spartan. And I don't know if that was always the case in Halo proper, but like Master Chief is supposed to be this like genetically engineered superhuman man in this like super heavy, super powerful suit where he can jump and throw and leap and things. And like then you play Halo and like fall damage, like you've barely like fallen off a thing and you die because it's too far. So this, you can go to the highest point in the map and you can just jump and just sail down until you hit like the lowest point in the map, and you're the Master Chief, so it doesn't matter. You can pick up the power coils that are in multiplayer and you can throw them at people. Like you feel like you are Superman, and that's awesome. And like Halo 4 did a really good job of that. I think Halo 5 ruined everything because of that like armor lock thing. Like, oh, I got downed, I just have to like crouch here until you hold X over me. But it's super good. Ben, I can't wait for you to get to play it. It's great, and obviously we'll talk about this more as we go on. I've talked far too long, so now you get to talk, because I've not played the original versions nor these ones. We're talking about now Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So please take it away.
Yes, well, these are the games that one game that I put down to play Halo. And so I had my first review in progress for ages, mainly because I'm playing Halo. But I did get around. I finished it on the weekend. It's good, but it's not as good as the other remakes. So pretty much, this game was not made by Game Freak, who make all the Pokemon games, because they're working on Pokemon Legends, which comes out in... I think that's still coming out in January. I just assumed it would get delayed, but I don't think it has been.
There's
it
still
hasn't
time.
featured in this week in delays. As of yet, yes, exactly. So it's been outsourced to another company, who I'm not sure it made Pokemon games, at least not a mainline Pokemon game. And it seems like what they were trying to do is make a very faithful remake of the DS games, which came out in Australia, at least in 2007. So 14 years old. And I just feel like previous remakes were all about bringing generations 1, 2, and 3 up to the current standard of Pokemon games. So in this case, that would be Pokemon what am I calling? Sword and Shield. That's the one.
The English
and
one.
That's not the case. Yeah, that's right. Almost forgot that. Well, they were cool for a second. And so they were like the first kind of 3D style, more immersive, very emotive, a lot of kind of character-driven Pokemon games. And more like what we expected from the long, elusive kind of handheld to console game. And we finally got it on the hybrid system. And this kind of loses that. It goes back to like the 3DS and /DS style, like that top-down camera. The characters all look like they have no emotion at all, like they just kind of blank stare you the whole time, and it just loses that kind of character-driven emotional side. So it's the first remake which feels like it's back where we were, which kind of defeats the purpose of doing a remake because you could just play the DS games. They're not that out of date. It's not like going back to the first gen Game Boy games, which are originally for a black and white / green and white system. So yeah, they're good, but they just don't have that same level of need and necessity as the prior remakes up until now. It feels a little bit like we can sell 20 million copies of this, so let's do it. And then let's use that to springboard into our new kind of spin-off mainline Pokemon game. And if that does well, great. If it doesn't, we've had this remake as well. So Nintendo have a system here. They have a blueprint. They've done really well in the past doing this, kind of making a new game a few years later, remaking an older one. I'm sure it will sell well. It just doesn't feel as necessary as the previous one. So that's Pokemon.
It's
Not so brilliant, but not bad. Diamond and less than Shining Pearl.
it's weird because like it's in the world in the time of like a Grand Theft Auto trilogy, which we'll talk about in a minute, and even like a Mario Party Superstars. It's like, is it a cash grab? Is it a decent thing to have and to have reintroduced to the world? And you know, of those three, it sounds like two are a no, and Mario Party, surprisingly perhaps, is a yes, which is weird.
It's a banger. It's not a cash grab in the sense that we knew it was coming, right? So they've remade gens 1 to 3, so 4 was the next obvious thing to do. Potentially because 4 was already a DS game, so it already had a lot of those kind of modern or more modern style features. And the DS and the 3DS games were basically the same thing. Like they followed the same blueprint, very similar. And so going back to that style from the Switch step up just feels like we haven't really progressed like those other ones did. So yeah, it'll sell well. People will like it. If you never played the originals, I think they're easier to play in that there's less Pokemon to remember. Like I know most of these ones, so that's just me being old. Like there's less. And I did play the originals, so there's that there. There's some fun there. It's quicker. It's much quicker to get through because all your Pokemon now gain experience from the very beginning, and you can't turn that off like you can in every other Pokemon game.
No.
I like that because I don't want to play for 40 hours. I just want to smash through it. Does mean you're super overpowered like straight away. So, you know, the enthusiast Pokemon players will not be into that at all because it's just too easy at some point. And they try to balance it by making some of the gyms harder, but it's similar to another game we'll talk about later, and it kind of feels like no one really tested that. Like it was in theory that will kind of fix it, but it doesn't really. Like you're too overpowered, it's too easy, it's really quick. I don't mind that, but I think a lot of people will think, why am I bothering? It's too easy. So yeah, that's always the risk with Nintendo games these days, that they go too far on the let's make it really accessible, let's make lower skilled players come in and be superpowered straight away, and then it alienates their more hardcore, who really are their biggest fan base. We all know that the average Pokemon player kind of looks like me. They're not a 12-year-old like. I suppose that's what I was at the beginning, and then they're the people who still play these games.
There you go. Hamish is here and says the podcast is totally poggers, and I don't know what that means. So like, you're the age of a Pokemon player. I'm the age of someone who's too old to have even been a Pokemon player. So I don't know if that's good or bad. So maybe this is just broken on Twitch, and who knows? It's fine. Hi, Hamish. I have no interest in playing Pokemon. I'm really sorry, but good for Pokemon.
Fine. Let's move it along. What else did we play?
You
played something.
I've played Bright Memory Infinite, which if you've played Bright Memory, which was introduced at the same time as the PlayStation... Nope. Well, yeah, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and X, it's on Xbox and PC. It was a game developed by one guy, a Chinese developer, FYQD, I believe. Apologies if I got the letters in the wrong order. Cool game, and like Bright Memory Infinite was introduced in that third-party Series S and X presentation in 2020 and looked insanely amazing. The problem is, like, basically everything that you saw in the trailer, like that's the duration of the game, pretty much. Like it's a couple hour experience. And even the stuff that you kind of saw with like the car and the combat's a little bit watered down, so it's kind of like what you were promised wasn't quite what you were gonna get. It's cheap though. It's like $14 on Steam. It's only out on Steam right now. It didn't make it to Xbox yet. And if you bought the original Bright Memory, you get it for free. So it's one of these things where it's like it's gorgeous. It's absolutely utterly gorgeous, but like there's a problem with one person writing the narrative and writing the dialogue and developing the game and making everything look pretty, and like he is skilled in some aspects and not in others, so it's like really fun to play, but it's not great. But it's cheap, and if you need like a thing to kill for 3 or 4 hours and you don't mind spending like $15, do it. So like it's I don't have much more to say about it, to be frank. It's a really cool looking thing, but it's not it's not that memorable, to be honest, especially timed in November alongside all of the things that are highly polished and crazily good. So
bright memories are not so bright anymore, is what you're telling me.
And it's certainly not infinite. It's like bright memory 4 hours. So take from that what you will.
That's all right. I'm happy with the 4-hour game.
Well, something that you're not happy about, because I know this. I've read your 4.5 out of 5. Out of 5. No, 4.5 out of 10 review on Stevivor. Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy.
Generous.
The definitive edition.
Might I add? Yeah, that's right. A confusing name to begin with. One of the first 4.5 out of 10s. Everyone else copying me. All these people with their cop-outs of, we too only got this game on release day because Rockstar knew that they were trying to polish something that was very unpolished and sneak it past. And a lot of people went with, we need to play it for ages. I could tell you, and I wrote this review after about 3 hours with each game. I played them many times before, and I even wrote that at the start to say this is not a review of the game, just of this package, this remastering, and it stinks. In hindsight, probably a generous 4.5 because they should have known better. It's just it got that high score because the underlying games I think are still good, even though they're so dated. And the whole point of this remaster is to bring them more in line to what you expect now, so you can play them. And so it's those control tweaks that your brain's not just going to die because it doesn't make sense now. And those are there. So like controlling, accelerating braking with the triggers, having a camera on the right stick, a lock-on shooting system, bare minimum, but they do mean you can now play. So I compared this to the PS2 original versions on PS4, actually running on a PS5. You can't buy those anymore. They are just the PS2 games emulated, but upscaled. So they don't actually look that terrible for such old games, but they're pretty blurry, and they're hard to play because they just don't make sense to your brain. But they're probably better. They run better, and that's weird because it just doesn't make any sense how you can get 20-year-old games, remaster them, and have them run so poorly. So the rain thing, that was a big thing. A big deal got made out of that, and fair enough because that rain happened within 2 minutes of GTA 3. It's in the opening, like when you're breaking out from the van at the start, and when you're actually, it looks weird there, but when you're actually playing, it blinds you. Like it almost makes the screen white to the point that you can't see what you're doing. I just don't understand how anybody thought that was fine. So to wind it back, this is made by Grove Street Games, I think is
correct.
Their name.
Grove Street
it's a new name
from
for the
San
developer.
Andreas. Yeah,
that's it. They are the same developer who made the mobile ports of GTA. So GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas have been on mobile for like 10 years. So the Switch version, which by all reports is way worse than the Xbox Series X version that I played, is not the first time these have been handheld. They've been on mobile for 10 years. There's always been a problem with those games in that they were compromised to some degree to run on phones. Like they just didn't work
10
as
years
well.
ago phone.
Yeah.
Not like your phone now. Not like my handy like folds in half phone. Like an old phone.
Yeah. Like an iPhone 5 or something. So there's loads of videos on YouTube. They're kind of funny to watch some of them be like, what were they thinking when they made these? Because they just had odd choices in them that ruined things. And unfortunately, those versions are the base. They didn't go back to the PS2 or, better yet, the PC and Xbox versions. They started kind of in a bad place. For a very small team, like I don't really get why Rockstar picked it. It's not their fault. They're a small developer. It's not entirely their fault, partially. Mostly Rockstar's fault. Small developer, mainly make mobile games. probably not ready for this scale. So they've done a lot of AI upscaling, which again has been highly publicized. Some of it works pretty well. Like if at a glance, moving really quick, the environments do look pretty good for 20 years old. It's just when you actually stop and look at it, you see roads which are not aligned. You see signs which don't make sense. You see that, yeah, there's just heaps of stuff like that. But on the whole, like the environments, the vehicles, they look okay. They kind of look like what I expected from a remaster of such old games. We weren't getting a whole remake really. But then the characters look weirdly out of place. Like they've been AI generic kind of model styled. And they just lost their character. They look like someone's put on a filter, like a Snapchat filter over everyone and said, make like a PS2 parody character. And a lot of these are parody characters already. Like they're people from those eras, from the 80s for Vice City or who was kind of big at the time. And they just lost it. And they just look out of place. And they actually look good. If you look at the screenshots and you think that looks weird, they look so much stranger in motion because like just their movement is so, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The lot looks weird. And then the worst of all is just the performance is terrible. Like they don't run very well. Weirdly for a game that's so old and been meant to be completely remastered is there's a performance and a fidelity mode. At least on Series X, it defaults to fidelity. Change that straight away because there is minimal visual downgrade for it actually kind of runs.
It's running a mobile game. It doesn't need the power of the Xbox Series S or X or the PS5. Yeah.
But it does. So and then watching Digital Foundry's coverage on it, basically the Series X version is the only one that runs anywhere near 60 frames, but it drops a fair bit. The PS5 version, for some reason, in performance mode, it doesn't change any graphical options. So it's almost like they forgot to change performance and fidelity. So they couldn't understand that. And they said the only way to get like a locked 60 frames from this 20-year-old game is to download the PS4 Pro version on your PS5. And that will run at a locked 60 because its frame rate is like a quarter of the PS5 version, which is not 4K, it's like 1800p. So it's just a mess from that point of view. Lots of glitches, falling through the world, stuttering. I haven't had any crashes. That's the only good thing. And then there's the styling changes, like Gaetano pointed out to us when he could see the whole map of San Andreas and saying, I don't remember it being so tiny and weird. And that's just we can remove the fog, but that was also there as a styling thing to give you some sense of immersion in this world, which is, in my mind, GTA San Andreas is the biggest world I've ever played a game in. I think that's my 2004 mind. It's not accurate.
There are Battlefield 24 maps, 2042 maps that are bigger than San Andreas now. Yeah.
But I liked that memory, and the curtain's been lifted, and they probably didn't need to do that. And the whole thing is, I think pretty much I had a running theme in my review of it. It's just very that'll do, like that. Someone's already said this looks better, and you can play it now, and it does look better. That's good enough. It's missing that polish and that care that we got in things like Mass Effect. And if you go back to older games like the Tony Hawk remasters and the Spyro remaster and the Crash Bandicoot remaster, so they're PS1 games, I wouldn't expect this to look that good because they're such small scale. They got a bigger visual overhaul.
Yeah.
But I would expect it to have the same level of care and the same level of polish and someone to have actually play tested it. And then weirdly in Vice City, having played the PS2 version recently as well on PS4, they've ruined the handling. Like it's really hard to control. So that actually plays worse than the original version. Whereas the other two games I think do play better here. If you're going to play them, they're still the best version. So I think Rockstar were kind of hoping that it would just sell and on reputation alone and they could get away with it. And I think maybe if it got a bunch of 6 and 7s, it could. I think that's why it's very important that it didn't and that a lot of people have covered it. I think they were hoping they wouldn't. And there'd be people like us who thought, oh, we got it too late. Let's not worry. There's enough backlash now that they've actually responded weirdly saying unexpected issues or something like that.
Yeah.
There's no way these are unexpected. Like they knew. I think what they thought unexpected that you would care and that you would consider not buying these games. The good news is San Andreas is on Game Pass, so you can try it without actually having to buy it. But yeah, disappointing. I hope that they at least get fixed to the point that the glitches improve so they become more playable. I think the rain effect has been fixed at least in San Andreas, so some degree of hope. But it's just I don't understand. Like they announced these games 3 or 4 weeks before they released. Why? Why not just say
Because
someone at Rockstar must have played it?
GTA 3
Yeah,
had an
5 is
anniversary,
coming
that's
out
why. Because it's like, we just have to get it
Yeah,
out there, which is stupid. Like, delay things if they need to be delayed. Absolutely.
but
And
you know what? Vice City has a 20-year anniversary next year. Weird to consider that games of such scope and reputation and magnitude and importance to the industry came out a year apart. And
yeah.
then San Andreas was 2 years later, and now look at like they can't get something right.
Now it's GTA 5
Just
for the
in
next 50
a
years.
remaster. So
You'll maybe get
yeah,
GTA 6
so
soon. Who
yeah.
cares? The thing that really annoys me is that they've called these the definitive edition, where clearly they're not the definitive edition, and they went
No.
being Rockstar went the extra step of delisting the old games from digital platforms, to the point where the PC version was so broken they've reintroduced, or they're starting to reintroduce, at least on the Rockstar launcher and maybe on Steam, I don't know, the original
Yeah.
PC versions of the games. So really the original versions are the definitive edition versions proper, because they're the ones that actually work, and the new ones are just Rockstar trying to push things out the door so you buy it again. It astounds me.
Well, the thing is, those games were always somewhat glitchy, so there's room to improve, and that's kind of what we thought would happen here. So I wouldn't say that those ones play better. They probably don't actually, except for maybe Vice City, because they're so old and dated that these ones, all their issues play probably better if you had to play them right now, but not well enough. Not what we expect from a full price remaster. Remembering those games were sold on PS4 for like $10 each, and this is now 100. So it's just, yeah, it's not what we expected. It's not what we wanted. It's not what these games deserved. So if they were going to do it, they should have done it properly. I think they knew that. They should have delayed it to next year.
Yeah. Well, speaking of games that should have been delayed, if you're watching live right now, sorry, behind the curtain, you're not going to listen to this right this second or see this right this second. But if you're watching the on-demand video or listening to the podcast, perfect segue into Battlefield 2042. We're going to get Luke Lawrie to replace Ben. We pre-recorded it. We're like same kind of thing, Ben, like a 4.5 out of 10, like just straight out of the gate. Like Luke knew it. Luke didn't hesitate. He didn't do a review in progress. He just went, this is garbage. And the internet took about a week to kind of follow suit and realize, yes, everything he said was like completely accurate. So the next 20 minutes or so in the on-demand stuff is going to be Luke. If you're watching live, we're going to just tack that on the end so Ben can keep on with his day. Luke Lawrie, the genius that you are, a correspondent for Stevivor, why not? The host of the Gap podcast, and all around just generally amazing Australian. Now back in Australia. Welcome back. You've been overseas for quite a while. I'm rambling. Luke, hi. How are you? First of all,
Doing great. How are you?
good. Thank you. You're here with me as a recording because you took the lead on Battlefield 2042, and I feel like you're the best person to speak to it. So I'm basically going to shut up for once and step aside and just let you constructively critique the game, let's say.
Well, I feel like you were more than welcome to jump in. You were there as well. So this was a online review event hosted by EA, where we got to play Battlefield 2042 across 3 nights. 4 to 5 hour sessions, we were told, which ended up being more like 9 hours, I think, I put together. So they had like presentations and slideshows and trailers that we'd already seen 30 times and that sort of stuff sort of sprinkled throughout. And then a bunch of downtime and that sort of thing. But yes, they basically put us into predetermined squads of 4 players, which also didn't go down too well. It was a very poorly run event. Just like it was, I don't know, like I've been to a bunch of review events and it just felt like there was a bit too much sort of hand-holdiness going towards it, and it just didn't go their way when they tried to do it in that particular fashion.
Yeah. I totally
anyway.
agree. I think they had the best of intentions. It was just kind of poorly organized. Immediately, you could see the journalists just like scramble to different groupings. I was supposed to play with you, and I kind of let someone who was taking review do it. And I got to play with Duty and David Smith and Omi from Checkpoint. So I had like a really good group anyway. But it was like no one stuck to their groups. The presentations were way too long. We just wanted to play. And then on the other side, and we'll get to Portal, I'm sure. Or was it Portal? When we got into like, is it custom games that are through Portal, or is that just custom games?
Yeah.
Like they basically said, oh, we've set up this thing to play like COD basically. And it wasn't like play for 5 or 10 minutes. Yes, we understand it. It's like play for the next hour. It's like I'm gonna go and make dinner. I'm gonna go and like start the wash. I'm gonna go I get it. I don't need to play for 45 minutes. Sorry, Luke. I cut you off.
No, and that's the thing, right? Is that it seemed like they didn't want us playing this game, and as we played more of it, that kind of became a bit more apparent. I think is that yes, they wanted us playing this as little as possible. Unfortunately for them, I've played a lot of Battlefield over the years, like a lot of Battlefield. It's kind of like my main go-to multiplayer game with my friends, where we jump in and we play a couple hours and cause a ruckus amongst all the other people in the server. So I've got a lot of experience in these games, and so when I jump in and I can play, 10 hours of a game, I can sort of see where the problems lie or what is good, as opposed to spending another 30 hours with it. But at the same time, I've also played a bunch of the closed beta, which we had some hands on with that, and they also did like an open beta leading up to this. So I'd had quite a bit of time before that as well, to sort of experience like what the game is about. Anyway, so we got to see All Out Warfare.
Yep.
As the first mode, which is Conquest Breakthrough, returning basically fan favorite mode of the genre, Conquest, where there's a bunch of capture points. You need to capture as many points as you want. As you do that, you bleed the enemy team's tickets out. The big change here is that they have introduced multiple sectors that have more than one control point that you need to capture in order to say that is your sector. I think in theory it's a really good idea, but in practice you can sort of game it a little, because it's like, well, why would I go capture that point with 3 when I can just go capture the single point and really do the same sort of thing that these other points are doing? I think there's got to be a bit more balance there in terms of like, it needs to factor into it more. Maybe it eats more tickets out, but that's not in there at the moment. That's probably the biggest change in terms of Conquest, aside from the introduction of specialists, which is kind of like their attempt at doing a hero shooter. They've had a class-based system in the game before: assault, medic, engineers, support, that sort of stuff. And this is more in lines of like a Overwatch or an Apex Legends, or Rainbow Six Siege is a really good one to point to, because it's characters that have these unique traits and abilities that are sort of put into these classes of like, this is a support class, or this one is a medic class. So for instance, there is a medic who is able to revive anybody quite quickly, but she also has a syringe gun that can fire darts and hit other players, and that will start healing them. Or you can even fire them at the ground, which is
how I would do
a whole other thing. Like, playing this game more, we've come to realize that it's like you can heal yourself using that syringe gun, but because I've played so much as medic, it's actually quicker not to heal yourself and just shoot the floor, and run over the dart,
stay
because
in the AoE. Okay.
the animation takes so long. But that's a whole other thing. Anyway, so they've introduced these specialist classes that sort of allow players to play different roles, and they've all got different abilities, that sort of stuff. And then the other mode that we played in All Out Warfare was Breakthrough. Didn't go too well during the preview event, at least, because it was extremely lopsided in terms of the defensive team won like every single round that we played.
Yeah.
It could have been put down to the fact that everybody was new, didn't know what we were doing, but I looked at it more of a imbalance issue, because it just seemed like you had so many bodies, 128 players in these modes, trying to control all of these points as an attacking team, and the defensive team could just basically respawn as much as they want and just throw as many players into one area to stop the other team from capping the point. And so we ended up playing that mode and not progressing past the first area every time we played it, because the defensive team just always won. And we got to the end of that session, which we didn't play a lot of it, but they basically everybody was in all chat being like, just let them cap it so we can see the end of the other half of the map.
Or asking like, are we like, who's on which team? Like trying to figure out if like somehow like all the all-stars were on like the team that was winning all the time. Like that day, that first night, I didn't win a single match, and I think we were in different games at certain points, but like I'd never progressed past the first round. I was always the attacker, and I never won. And it was just that thing of like you were saying, the other team can just instantly respawn, get a good vantage point, snipe, or like just get a good shooting angle on people who are spawning, running for 2 or 3 minutes as is Battlefield just to get like headshot and die. Like, oh, start again. Frustrating is the easiest way to describe it. It was just like 4 hours of bashing my head against a wall, and it's like is it me? Is it the game? Anyway.
I think it's the game. I think it's the game. It's an imbalance problem. Like there should have at least been. Like I've played these types of modes in the past, whether they've called it Rush or some of the sort of modifications of this idea in some of the like Battlefield 5, where it works a lot better. But this, whatever was going on here, was just a balance problem with the map. Anyway, so that's All Out Warfare. Basically, the 3 pillars of the game are All Out Warfare, Hazard Zone, which is their PvP VE mode. This is basically like a Escape from Tarkov or Hunt Showdown. If you played that, that's a really good PvP VE game.
Yeah.
And it's a collection of squads up to 32 players looking for data drives on a map, collecting data drives, eliminating AI players, and trying to eliminate other squads while extracting at a zone which only appears twice during the round. And if you're able to successfully extract with data drives, you get dark matter credits, points that don't mean anything in a game. Yeah, so basically you use these points to buy new weapons that you take into the game with you, and it's persistent characters. So if you survive that particular round or that match, you leave, and you get to leave with your things that you've acquired and your the weapons that you went in there with, and then you start the next match and you're able to buy even more equipment. Whereas if you get eliminated, you go back to a fresh character with nothing, and you've got to buy everything again using that dark matter credits. It's dark matter credits, right? Or am I just making that up? It's a silly name.
I played like one match and then my internet went down, so that was a fun.
It sounds like something that they looked at the division and was like the dark zone. All right, let's call them dark matter credits, and so that's the thing they decided to go with. Anyway, I think it's a cool idea. It's
go ahead. Sorry, I keep talking.
I was going to say, I think no, that's okay. You can interject whenever you want.
It was more fun than All Out Warfare. That's all I was going to say. It's out. You talk now.
Like it's a cool idea. It just doesn't. It's not executed properly. Like there's again balance problems. Playing a lot more of it now, like or even playing it then in my review, I wrote that vehicles were overpowered, and they're still overpowered because you can jump in a vehicle with a minigun on the back of it, basically reverse it up to the extraction point, and nobody can hit you because they can't shoot the windows, and you've got a giant minigun. These things take about 4 or 5 rockets to hit and kill, and that's if you've taken rockets in with you, because you've got to buy them and have the credits. And this is where the specialist system sort of plays into it. You've got these characters that you can bring in, but you've got to kind of bring in the ones that you want to play, but it's more reliable just to bring in the stuff that will win you the game. So like everybody's rocking rockets because vehicles are so overpowered. So there's no point buying all of this stuff that the game has introduced to you or trying to use anything that the game has given you as a tool, because you can't win when you just play it the way that you feel like you want to have some fun with.
That sounds great. I think on the whole, like from my experience anyway, and I think you think similarly, the first 2 days of this 3-day event were like the new Battlefield 2042 stuff, and hit and miss is a nice way of saying it. Like a lot better than the closed beta. Like I'll give it that, but like I wasn't enjoying it. And then we got into Battlefield Portal, and apart from those weird like this is Call of Duty for an hour. Like I get it. You can set up all these cool things and make a really cool game, and there's all these logic systems, and I'm sure like super creative people are gonna like hit the moon with it.
Yeah, the super impressive system.
Yeah. But
Very
like,
impressive.
I can't. I'll play modes. I'm not going to try to make them. The real bread and butter of Portal is like, here's old Battlefield, like here's Rush, and here are all these things that you actually like, and they're really fun because old Battlefield is good and new Battlefield is kind of garbage. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that the most fun I had in that day it wasn't Portal, because I think the first couple hours, like you said, they got us to play mode for 45 minutes, which didn't really work anyway. It was kind of half baked. But Battlefield Conquest Classic was highlighting just how poorly Battlefield 2042 has been handled, because everybody in that session was like, this is so much fun. It's like, yeah, it's fun because this is like classic Battlefield, or like not even classic Battlefield, like Battlefield 3 that was within the last 10 years, and that stuff felt really good. Even just looking at those maps and being like, look how creative these maps are, as comparing them to what we've got in Battlefield 2042. It's just such a massive contrast between the two. And I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's been shoveled in there. I don't like, this should have been a separate game or some sort of thing that they dished out and were like, it's a subscription service and we're going to update it every 2 years with a newer Battlefield game, and we'll keep rolling it out. But to lump it into Battlefield 2042 just kind of feels weird.
Yeah.
Like, what do they do in a couple of years when they want to put in, I don't know, Battlefield 1 in there or something like that? Or it's just a strange way of doing it. It's, when like Call of Duty Warzone came out, and it was a free-to-play thing, but it was sort of attached to that Call of Duty that year. This is kind of how that should have been implemented.
Yeah, but you can't launch Portal standalone. It's a menu inside Battlefield 2042, which I'm sure will probably change, because I think the general consensus is like, come for the Portal, stay for maybe stay for 2042. See if you have time.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I agree with you. The Battlefield Conquest Classic stuff is excellent. Like, it's such a great way to like just have people play those classic games and in a newer engine, and it run great and look great, and immediately just have good weapons as well. Like, everything felt good when we were playing. But yeah, man, just the rest of the game is kind of not good.
Yeah.
It's things that, like, I don't know if you want me to go into, but stuff I talked about, just how many things have been removed in it. I think one of the main points I tried to highlight in my review talking about it was like the introduction of requisition points into Battlefield 5 and incentivizing players to play as a team and as a squad. And by capturing points and earning these requisition points to spend for reinforcements. And it could have been stuff like calling in a vehicle to help you get from point A to point B. But the big one that you kind of put down was these JB2 rockets or V1 rockets. And you'd kind of just call them in and you'd decimate an area. They'd explode, massive rocket, big explosion, and it looked cool. And they've basically gotten rid of that entire system, which reward players for playing the objective. And that kind of is a look at this game and seeing all the other things that they've removed from it, and not really replacing it, or not even trying to really do anything else with the game in terms of its gameplay and the features that it's got. And it's just there's lists out there now. People, some of it is very nitpicky, but at the same time, I think some of it is quite important. Things like weapon suppression system was a good one, because when they introduced that, they said it's a way of allowing players that aren't good at shooters to feel like they're doing something productive, because it meant that you were able to suppress another player. They couldn't see properly, that sort of thing, but at least they were getting points.
Yeah. And
it was allowing maybe someone else to sneak up and shoot them. But that whole system is gone, hasn't been replaced. No reason why. Leaning is gone. Supply stations have been removed, which basically means you need someone on your team now to have that loadout drop. Like, they're forcing players to play a specific way just so that they can introduce these specialists. But at the same time, it's sort of like limiting what you can use, because you need to have the guy that's got the ammo, or you need a medic. And so that's like 2 people out of your team that have been taken.
Yeah.
It's
And if you're like me and not as good as this as you, and you're sort of like a support person just because like that's how you try to contribute and help, like that lessens those types of experiences where like I just have to like lock myself in and try to do the thing and probably fail. But you've written like literally written thousands of words on Battlefield 2042. It's up on the website. You should definitely read Luke's review. Luke, I appreciate your strength of conviction, understanding the franchise so well, and just coming straight out with the 4.5. There's sites that have followed obviously since, but a lot of weird like high scores at the very, very start there, and then kind of the internet's consensus was like, what's going on? This isn't great. So not that it's not that's what reviews are about, but good job.
I mean, before the game came out, people were giving me a bit of crap on the internet about it. And as it's sort of released, I've gotten a lot more messages from people being like, actually, thank you for doing, being honest and not being paid by publishers. And I'm like, that doesn't happen anyway, you idiot.
Yes.
But yeah, it's currently the lowest rated Battlefield game that they've released at this point. It's even lower than Hardline. So that is...
That's an accomplishment. That's an accomplishment. We'll get you on the Friendly Fire Show proper, I promise. But you couldn't make it to the time of recording now that we're live on Twitch like cool kids, Luke. But we'll definitely get you on. How do people find you on the internet to check out what you're doing?
Yeah, you can go to Stevivor.com, I guess. I'm on there. Or you can go to twitter.com/Luke Lawrie. Otherwise, thegapodcast.com. It's my weekly podcast that I do with Judd Gilroy. We've been doing it for... 12 years now. We're on episode 593 this week. And I talk about video games to Joe 2.5, 3 hours every week. So very critically, though, we dive really deep into games. So it's not as short as other podcasts. We like to really get in there and talk about game design. No, that's not a problem. Everyone's got their...
Oh, no.
Some people don't have hours to spend a week listening to a podcast. That's fair enough.
Come to the Friendly Fire Show for Luke's abridged Battlefield 2042 review. Go to the website to read it, the two, of course, and then go to the Gap for like 17 hours. I'm sure you're still talking about it of Battlefield, which is perfect.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it for about 4 or 5 hours in the last 2 weeks.
I haven't gone to that one yet. I was listening to Job's Halo points. You got a couple words in here and there, but that was basically Job just complaining about melee and physics and stuff. But anyway, it's definitely worth a listen. Luke, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get you on proper again soon, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
We're gonna talk news if you're watching live now. So. The first thing I want to talk about is just that Xbox Cloud gaming is now available on Xbox consoles, and I know you've tried it. I've tried it a little bit. I think that it's a good case for the Xbox Game Pass quests. So as an example, if you do the Xbox Game Pass quests, and you should if you have Xbox Game Pass, you get extra points for doing specific things within the ecosystem, logging into the mobile app, playing an Xbox Game Pass game, going into one and killing 5 bad guys or doing whatever else. And one of the quests this week that I had was go play Scarlet Nexus. That's it. You don't have to do anything. You just have to play Scarlet Nexus. I reviewed it. I didn't really like it that much. I kind of bounced off it. I've deleted it from my hard drive. It's on Game Pass, though. It's in cloud. So now on my Xbox, I can literally just go to Scarlet Nexus, hit the, play with cloud. In the case of that quest, it, immediately fulfilled the obligation. I got my little, toast saying, here's 25 Microsoft points for you. Away you go. I didn't think the experience in terms of speed and playability is fine. Speed is amazing. It's super quick to launch. Playability was it's okay. It looks like you're streaming a game to your, in my case, my 4K display, which is trying to do a 1080p game, which just kind of looks garbage. Whereas if you were doing it on your phone, it's so small, it looks great. So I don't know. It's a good test case for the Quest. It's a good test case for trying a game to see if you want to actually download it. What was your experience with Xbox Cloud gaming?
So similar, except I did one straight in the rewards app. So there was, sometimes there's one which is get one achievement in this game or one of these 10 games and you get 500 reward points. Yep. So I did that. I think that's still there if you want to try that. And all the games are in Game Pass on the cloud. You can play any of them. Just got my one achievement, didn't have to download it, never play that game again. Can't even remember what it was. So it works for that.
That good, eh?
Very similar. Yeah. I've actually tried this on Xbox One, like a vanilla, big chunky boy Xbox One and a Series X, and the results are identical. Like there's no difference between them because you're playing on the cloud. So there's probably that side of it that doesn't really affect us because besides that one test, I don't use my Xbox One anymore.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what it was like. So there's if you can't get a new console, you only have that. Potentially there is reason to do it because it's not that different to what a 900p Xbox One game actually looks like. It doesn't look as good in an Xbox One game. Let me put that out there. It's blurrier. As I said last time, it kind of looks like you're watching someone filming a game on their phone and watching that feed. It just looks a bit off.
Yeah.
Playing on a 4K, like a 65-inch big TV, as you say, it looks great on a mobile. Not so good on a big TV. The more I played, the more I thought it's kind of like the Switch version of a game. Like it's impressive that this can happen so easily and that I'm playing it on this device in this way. But it's compromised, and why would I want to play it like that when I can just download it? On Switch, something like The Witcher 3, it's amazing that it plays on there, but it's compromised. I'm just going to play it on my Xbox. So, same thing. It's nice to have, but I'm never going to pick that because it's an inferior version of it. But yeah, as you say, testing a game instead of downloading, 60 gig makes perfect sense. The weird thing on Xbox One, as far as I could tell, you couldn't play any Xbox Series X exclusives, and there aren't many to test. So the one I was testing was Flight Simulator, not available to stream. I don't know if it is at all.
No, not yet.
But it certainly wasn't.
Soon.
So yeah, that's the reason. So that's what I really wanted to test. Could I see a Series X only game running on an Xbox One via the cloud? That's the useful thing.
Is the medium? But that's on Series S too, though.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
It's not on Xbox One. I don't know if that's if it's streamable. So, Forza Horizon was, but that's obviously an Xbox One game as well.
Yeah.
So not really a useful test.
Something that...
But yeah,
it's go ahead, sorry.
Good technology. But yeah, it's
Something
good technology. I'm not going to use it a lot, though.
Now I can talk. Sorry. Something that Phil Spencer said, me mate Philly Cheesesteak has said, is that like this, and I'm sure it will be Microsoft's intent eventually to replace like a console with just like an internet box that streams things. But right now, like Microsoft's official line anyway is, like this doesn't replace the console in front of your feet, like at the TV, underneath the TV that you're playing on. And I think like it's undeniable, especially in Australia with our kind of intermittent, maybe good, maybe shit internet, is that it's always better to have something without the need to stream it if you can just have it on your console to your TV. So yeah, like it's a test case for people wanting to try games. It's a half step for people that just can't get a new console yet, that are maybe trying to or just can't afford to. So like I just like that the option is there. And I think it's obviously if you can just get the game and download it and play it that way, that's the easiest way to do it and the best way to do it. But like at least you have options. Next story, Ben. Harmonix of Rock Band, of Dance Central, of Fuser, of late fame, has today, at the time of recording, been acquired by Epic Games, and they're going to continue like working on Fuser in terms of like the events and things that are happening in game, probably introducing new tracks and stuff, I hope. Same thing for Rock Band 4, but I guess worryingly, Harmonix is now going to just be creating musical journeys, air quotes. Or not air quotes, like that's an actual quote, musical journeys for Fortnite, which just seems like the most creative studio one of the most creative studios ever in video games is now just like a Fortnite machine, and that terrifies me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that sucks. There's been so many acquisitions of the last 5 years, and this is probably the worst by far. Like, not that I really played a Harmonix game for a long time. I didn't play Rock Band 4, but maybe I'll try to get it. I don't even know if you can still buy it. I wish I played it now.
Try Fuser. Fuser's really, really good.
Oh, I tried Fuser.
Did you like it? No.
Because no, I haven't tried Fuser. I will try it, I should say.
You should.
I played when they both, for some reason, Rock Band and Guitar Hero both got revived at exactly the same time, which still annoys me. I went with Guitar Hero, and then Activision closed it down like straight away. I really wish I'd gone with Rock Band now. Never mind. But yeah, disappointing. I'm not into Fortnite at all, so couldn't possibly comment on what they'll actually do in that game.
Yeah, and like also Disney Fantasia Music Evolved. No, that's something. I'm just putting a Halo reference in there. That whatever the Harmonix Fantasia game was that used Kinect. I don't know if I think it has to use Kinect. Super good as well. Just like really creative. You feel empowered. You feel like if you're not like a music maker, you still feel like you can be a music maker. They're really inspiring games. I really like them, and I love the passion behind. Like everyone I've met at Harmonix is just like the nicest. Like they're in it for the craft, which is like so wanky to say, but like so true. And I guess like in the vein of Disney, just like everything's gobbling up everything else. It's just like we are Star Wars and Simpsons and this and Marvel now. This is us. Like it's like yay. I guess they have a lot of funding and money behind them, but like. If Epic would have said, we're acquiring Harmonix to make musical journeys, full stop. Yes, perfect, 100%, I'm on board. But it's musical journeys inside Fortnite. Like, I don't care about Travis Scott or Ariana Grande, like, doing a concert inside Fortnite. I don't care about Fortnite. Sorry, now that the pub's open behind me, you can probably tell. Which sucks. Anyway, that's the end of that. That's depressing, and I hope good things come of it. In terms of other things, did you know that there's a really expensive Seagate expansion card, 2 terabytes for your Xbox Series S and X coming? It was originally priced, as you found first for us, thank you, on Mighty Ape, for $750 Australian. EB Games has now come out with $700 Australian. And I think EB Games has something, and it's not a fact-based show, Ben, I think it's like $530 if you trade in your original 1 terabyte Seagate card. You can get a 2 terabyte card instead, which is, without the trade-in deal, the price of an Xbox Series X, and with the trade-in deal, a dodgy trade-in deal that you shouldn't take, because the price of a 1 terabyte card is like $350. So sell it on eBay or something and get more money than a trade-in. Yeah,
annoying, because I really want a 2 terabyte card. If it was like $550, I probably could have convinced myself into spending way too much on it then. $700, can't do it. That is a terrible trade-in deal too, which is probably expected, but EB actually had good deals for when the console launched. Like, I got $420, I think, effectively from 1X, and then that paid off a fair chunk of a PS5. So decent deals. Now they're giving you almost nothing for that 1 terabyte card. As you say, they're worth a lot, and these are plug and play cards, so that is the advantage that is over PlayStation, allowing you to use more options. You can have games on the card, you can unplug it like a PS2 memory card, plug it in. All those games on there will just suddenly appear. It doesn't even care, unless you're playing a game, it doesn't care if you just rip it out. There's no getting cranky that you didn't eject storage or anything like that. So I would suggest, if you are going to upgrade and you're a wealthy man, keep the 1 terabyte one. Then you've got yourself 3 terabytes of storage cards. Either, if you're in conversation to do this, you probably have 2 consoles anyway. If you don't, just leave like your B tier games on the one that's unplugged and plug it in when you need them. Like, it's better than selling it for that, or go sell it on eBay for $250.
And if you're a super patient person, get an 8 terabyte or a 12 terabyte proper hard drive, which you can't play games on, but you can move things to and fro. And if it takes a while if you're going to a hard drive, not an SSD.
That's
but
okay.
Do it. And if you're gonna sell your 1 terabyte card on eBay or something, obviously the people have to own the licenses for it. But you could potentially get a bonus kind of thing going, like 1 terabyte card on eBay with Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition pre-installed. Asterisk need licenses to play games. But, yeah, maybe that's important to people.
Just pre-install only games that are on Game Pass. Sell it like that. The top Game Pass games already installed. That's a good business idea, actually.
Oh, we should do that. Let's go buy some
I have a 1 terabyte card. Yeah. Oh no, can't afford it. I have one. And then I've got my 12 terabytes of hard drives attached. So to be honest, it's not enough space, but it also is at the same time. That's full. The console's full. But by the time I need to download something else, I look at the two storages combined and I think what can get moved across that I'm not really playing right now. There's always plenty of stuff that can go. And only a couple of times I've actually moved them back because I've realized I didn't want to play that. And yeah, it takes 10 minutes. Moving between internal and the storage card takes like 1 minute. But yeah, it's manageable. 2 terabytes would be better. That'd probably be the sweet spot. Having 3 all up for the console would work ideally for me. That's why I was thinking about upgrading. But at $700, I think they will sell very little, to the point where I'm not even sure like your EB and your JB is going to stock more than one at a time, or it might even be like a special order. Like I don't see them moving very many at all.
Same boat. Really considering it is way too expensive. I'll just be frugal in my data management, really, because I can't justify it. That being said, Microsoft, if you're listening and want to, like make sure Ben and I can, test these properly to make sure they work well, we'll happily do it. We're running short on time, though, so let's get into the last bit of news that I wanted to talk about, which is the online Xbox Museum. And I'm saying online Xbox Museum because, there's probably Xbox museums out there. This one's online. It's for you. So it gives you a history of the 20 years of Xbox, but it also gives you a history of Halo, which launched at the same time as the Xbox OG 20 years ago. Almost to the day. We're a week or so late. But more importantly, it kind of, and it might, mileage may vary, gives you your own personal Xbox history. Now, Ben, I'm going to talk quickly. I'm going to try, see how this works live. I'm going to try to launch my own Xbox museum that you probably can't see, but Twitch can see. Oh, look at this. It's working.
Mine crashed a bunch on my phone, so I think it's better on a desktop potentially.
Well, you're up. And it's like lamely the metaverse, and I like hate everything about the metaverse, but like whatever, it's the metaverse. So it's cool. Like it gives you the obvious history of Xbox, but it gives you your own history as well. There are some problems in just, I guess, data collection to begin with. The first thing is, it's saying that I've never played an original Xbox. Well, I don't have the original Xbox in my ownership any longer, but I still have my copies of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chaos Bleeds. So like I've played the original Xbox, it just doesn't quite remember that. It's saying I logged in to Xbox Live in 2006, which was definitely on my 360, but I didn't log into my 360 until 2 years later. Which is strange. Like it's the data is a little bit flawed, but it's still just really cool, and it's like a nice little personalization of your Xbox experience. I can go and find out that I've played Destiny way too much, and I love it. And like crazily enough, in my experience, Ben, I'm totally bragging about my gamer score. I have a gamer score of like 607,000 at the moment, and I found out just by kind of looking at the stats that almost 200,000 of that gamer score is from the last 2 years, just being in lockdown and having a little less to do than usual, which is fascinating and horrifying at the same time. So did you have any cool like things about your own experiences that the museum has highlighted for you?
Well, it's similar to you. Like I wish it would just give me data instead of having to run around, but I get what they're trying to do. Some of it's clearly wrong, but some of it did bring back memories that I think are right. So back when I used to work at MMGN, we used to play FIFA every day at lunchtime on my gamer tag. So my top 3 most played games are FIFA 12, 13, and 14, and maybe 15 as well. That's because we used to play it daily. And then weirdly, my next most played game is Foxtel for Xbox 360, which I used for a 2-week free trial and then never again. So I'm pretty sure I would have played a game more than that besides that one, so never mind. I think there's things like that which are a bit quirky. It said my first played Xbox Series X game was Forza Horizon 3, so not 4 but 3, which I'm certain is not an Xbox Series X game because it was delisted in September before the console even launched, so that's not right. The same thing where some dates didn't match up between my first Xbox Live and my playing on 360, which had to be the same time. Like, couldn't have played on Xbox Live before 360, but apparently I did. So yeah, it would be nice if they just kind of maybe checked some of these little things, because it's fun to go back and see these things. Same as you, but not on the same scale. Last year by far was my biggest gamer score year. But I did set, I think that was like 130 in like set that I wanted to get to 200 by the end of the year because I had nothing to do during COVID and the console was going to launch, and I got there, and then I decided to stop basically. Although I'm going to hit 250 at the end of this year, so when I say stop, kind of restarted now.
Well, as you do.
But I'm not getting 100. I'm going to retire before that. Yeah.
Wow. It's really
Xbox
neat.
news we didn't cover is in celebrating 20 years of Xbox, they also released, I think, 76 more back compact games, which are the last ones because
They said that 2 years ago, though, but yes.
They said that 2 years ago because they said we need to focus on getting Xbox One games to work on Series X, and they, besides the Kinect ones, they all run on Series X because there's no licensing issues because it runs the same version. The problem here is they need to relicense all of these games because even though you may have it on disc, they need to be able to sell you a digital download, and they have to be all relicensed again, which is very annoying. And that's basically the issue. They pretty much said the ones which we haven't done either can't be relicensed or like the publisher doesn't exist anymore, so we can't get their permission, or there's songs or something that we can't get licensed, so it's just too hard basket, they're done. But some cool ones got added. So like Max Payne 3 was a big omission because that's a great game. So that finally got added. A few others like that.
Alongside the other two Max Paynes, the entire Max Payne trilogy through Remedy
quite
and Rockstar. It's a cross-developer collaboration.
Quite a few from the original Xbox. So there weren't that many. So to add a few more from there is pretty cool. There are loads. Like there's not a lot. Funnily enough, one that would be nice to add now, just one more drop, would be for Rockstar to say, here's the Xbox version of the GTA trilogy as a make good because we know we didn't do a great job. So if you want to play them as they were, here you go. I can see now why they're not there. That's the reason they wanted to tell them to you again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's not a lot that I can see that's missing that I would expect you to be able to buy because obviously like your old Forza games never going to be re-released. Stuff like that's not going to happen. So yeah, good drop to celebrate 20 years alongside the Halo launch and now the museum.
Yeah. And like I guess the cool thing is sort of like I wish I would have kept my original Xbox. It's long gone. Like I was totally curious to see if I had one and I like put an Ethernet port in and like tried to log in to Xbox Live if it would, you know, somehow change the stats. But I still have my 360, and those, you know, copies of Buffy that I have do work on 360. They don't translate into Xbox One and Series X and stuff. So like game preservation is hard, and you know, like just TV outputs and stuff, like Xbox would be insanely hard to run on anything right now. Really, nothing I have in my house would work without some sort of adapter or something, but like the 360 does. It's just HDMI. So yeah, like it's crazy. It's cool that they're doing this. It's just kind of like nice and neat. And check it out, museum.xbox.com, if you want to check your own stats. This Fortnite and delays, I'm going to leave this one for you to talk about. Cricket 2022 gets a week delay into December 2021 because Tim Payne can't keep it in his pants. Is that the way to call it?
Yes, well, it's been a bit of a pain for everyone, basically. So I think Big Ant may have heard that one before. Annoying for them, I suppose. But on the other hand, this game is tying in with the Ashes, so it's still coming out a week before that. I think it's probably a better time for it to come out, if anything. So the cover has changed. They've changed Tim Payne for Pat Cummins, who is currently the vice captain, almost definitely going to become the captain. Big scandal because there has not been a bowler captain like ever, really. Not since like the 50s when it didn't really count. So it would be a big change. He's on the cover. He's a real pretty boy. His hair fits much better with the logo, I noticed. You can read the whole thing, so I'm sure they're happy about that. But the fun little stat is because the games are already printed, if you're going to buy it on disc, they don't have time to change the cover. So they're going to like email you a version you can print yourself, and then you can put in the new cover, print it on your A4 dodgy laser printer. So it's kind of, you know, there's like EB games that don't have a cover where they kind of like draw one or they just print something off. It's kind of like that.
Those are the best ones. Yeah. That's value.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the person that doesn't have like the right ink cartridges left in their printer. So the pretty boy is just basically like red or green or something, whichever like bit of ink is left in the cartridge. Perfect. Call of Duty Wars.
Who buys a disc anyway? So it doesn't matter. No one buys a disc. So the little icon on your console is going to have the correct badge now because they've delayed it a week to do that.
Yeah, it's going to have that correct badge because it's delayed a week because the assets couldn't be updated in time. Call of Duty Warzone, the Pacific map, which is tied into Vanguard, is delayed into December as well. I don't have anything else to really say about that. That's just a delay. We cover delays as part of a regular segment.
Who cares?
Cool. Sadly, Halo Infinite co-op campaign, which we've talked about wanting to play, is delayed until May 2022 because that's the start of Season 2. Now that Season 1 has been extended to that time, Joseph Staten said that it was always supposed to come out with Season 2, and Season 2 is now May, so that's when you're getting it. Forge is coming in Season 3, which doesn't have a date, which is sometime further into 2022. So I don't think anybody's really hanging out for Forge, to be honest. It's more the campaign co-op in May, which shucks. It sucks. It shucks corn. It is bad. I guess if I'm trying to put a silver lining on it, I think we're all gonna gobble up Infinite's campaign 'cause it's really good. And it's a nice kind of palate cleanser to forget about all the specifics. And then, when you and I hopefully jump in, to knock out Legendary in May, it'll be a fun experience that feels less repetitious than if we just did it straight away. Though I'd still like to have done it with you next week or next 2 weeks from now or whatever. But anyway. 6 Days in Fallujah, which is that high wire, tripwire, vitreous, I don't know, whatever. It's a game that is inspired by real world events that took place in Iraq, that was trying to tell the story of all these people, but omitting the use of white phosphorus, which was potentially a war crime, and then it was we're not trying to be political, and then it's we're absolutely political. How do you avoid that? That one's been delayed, probably just because of complications in how they were trying to present the game rather than COVID. So that's 2022. Anything you want to say about that?
Nope.
Cool. Saints Row, August 2022. Still saying adamant that even if diehard Saints Row fans who want dildo bats aren't crazy about this realistic reboot, too bad. That's what you're getting. It's coming out in August, delayed because of COVID.
Now, that one I believe I did call a few episodes ago when we looked at the February/March release lineup for next year, and something else moved into Saints Row time. Elden Ring or something. It was there was just too many things in that week, and I thought Saints Row's the one that's got to go, and go it did.
Well, fair enough. And then Pragmata is the last one. It's a Capcom game which had a little girl who is seemingly looking like she's a little girl robot or android or something. We don't know anything really about this game, but it's delayed now into 2023. It was supposed to come out next year, and since we hadn't heard anything about it, it kind of makes sense that it's needing some more time to one, cook, and two, be marketed. I guess. So that's the thing.
That's fine. Never even heard of it, so.
Wow, it looks kind of cool. It's Capcom's Capcom's doing some neat things, and then some weird things as well. Anyway, if you are listening to the podcast or the video on demand, that's basically it. Ben, how do we find you on the internet?
I am Ben_Salter on Twitter. And how do we find you?
I'm SWright, AU. We will see you in a fortnight from now. Thanks to Luke Lawrie for jumping on and talking about Battlefield 2042. If you're on the live stream, you haven't even seen that yet, so strap yourselves in. That's coming up right now. Otherwise, thanks so much. We will see you in a fortnight's time, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
All things Halo.
Yes. Oh, yeah, pretty much. All right. We will see you next time. Otherwise, here's Luke Lawrie if you're live.